All right, here we are, another Friday. This is exciting. Corbin, I was at a bar the other night and there was music playing, but on the TV was Kill Bill.
Oh,
Quentin Tarantino, yeah, Kill Bill.
weird.
And yeah, but you know what's amazing? That movie plays so well with no sound.
That's a good point.
Like
Yeah.
visually, I was like, this is like I was still enjoying it. I was still following the story. And it almost like lost nothing, even though there was music, people talking. The visuals were so
hmm
cool. I was just still enjoying it.
Well, yeah. Yeah. Everything about that movie is so good. It's just like everything. The action's great. Like the comedy is great. That they kind of throw in there with the action.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. So, what bar was this?
I can't remember, some little dive bar, but they had it on. They had it on. Some friends of ours were playing the music, and it was cool though. Do you have a favorite Tarantino movie that you like?
I like them all so much. I just watched Django again recently, and I was
Yes.
blown away. I was blown away the first time I watched it, and then I kind of just like
Yeah.
haven't seen it in years. And I watched it again.
Yeah.
It floored me. I always watch TV on my phone, so I'm just like laying in
Oh,
bed.
boo,
And,
boo! Please don't watch movies
and
on
so
your
I'm like
phone.
brushing my
Boo.
teeth, watching Django.
Oh
It's a whole
God.
thing. But
Oh,
it's good.
Tarantino's so pissed
I know
right
it's
now.
so
He's so
tiny.
mad
I'm
at
like,
you. He's so
is that
mad at you.
Django? Yeah, it's Django. Okay.
Jesus, Corbin, I'm so
Yeah,
disappointed.
it's so
I've
good.
taught you nothing. I've taught you nothing.
What
I've
about
taught you
you?
nothing.
What's your favorite movie?
I like, oh, all this stuff is so good, but I would remember I was watching The Hateful Eight, and I was like, oh, this one's not so bloody for Tarantino. And
Mm.
then the last quarter of it is just like all blood. I
Just
was like, oh, there you go.
turn
He
it up.
he made up for lost time. Big fan of Inglorious Bastards. I think that's another great one. Just the
Yes,
whole thing that's going on.
for sure.
I love his approach into stories and the vision. I just think he does such a great. The reason he's so iconic is like the dialogue, the visuals, the story. It all kind of turns into this triangle
Yeah.
that is just. There's a reason actors want to work with him over and over again, and just the stuff he does is it. Oh, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Oh
Oh,
my gosh,
yeah.
the scene where Brad Pitt is like high and then he has to like fight somebody. I was like, what is happening here? This is awesome. So, well, I want to transition from Tarantino to our guest today, who might have an opinion on Tarantino or might not. Today we have actor and acting coach and overall person, which I really like, Stefan Goldbach. Well, Goldbach. I said I was going to say it right. Sorry about that, and then I got nervous. God damn it, Corbin, this is your fault.
Sorry, my bad.
Welcome to the show, Stefan. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good. Thank you for having me, guys.
Of course.
Yeah,
Of course.
This is really cool. Yeah.
This is great to be here. Any opinions on Tarantino films that you like or don't like?
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say, like, Inglorious Bastards is wonderful.
hmm
They're all pretty wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you said it right. He creates just a kind of magic triangle. And I think there is like a little bit of how he puts dialogue together, how he tells a story, how it all looks that comes together, and yeah, just this little portion of genius. I can't even
Each story is so
say
unique,
it
but
better.
there's something about, like you're saying, there's some formula that he's doing every time, and I can't put my finger on
Mhm.
it, but it's beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, he really does a great job with that stuff. Um, so tell us a little bit about your journey. I mean, I know
Yeah,
that originally from Germany, right?
correct.
And
Yeah.
then coming to the US. How did that all kind of come about?
Yeah, directly that came about. I was in acting conservatory in Berlin and didn't quite feel ready to hit the market there yet.
Mm.
And knew the neighborhood playhouse in New York from there were a different course I'd taken in Mallorca, Spain, and decided to spend my summer in New York, which was a lovely thing. Looking back at it, I'm like, wow, it was really, really hot. It was
Yeah, July and July.
Yeah.
I don't know if
yeah,
you're
yeah,
July.
yeah.
July's hot in New York.
Yeah.
That
June,
is.
July in New York, and I loved it. And I
Yeah.
was like, huh, there's something about this. Yeah, I kind of got stuck there.
Okay.
I did the 1 year, first year, I got invited back for the second year, did the 2 year program, and yeah, kind of stuck around.
Wow.
Optional practical training, work permit, artist visa, green
Yeah.
card.
What was the did you do theater? Like what was that experience like compared to maybe even in LA? Like how's that changed for you?
Um, it was kind of an overall acting education. Like we had jazz dance, we had ballet, we had modern dance, we had a lot of speech stuff, we had the history of theater. It was like a classical conservatory of, yeah, we'll teach you everything that's important, and not really a lot about the career, right? Not like really a lot about the business then. So you feel like an artist, you have all this wonderful energy, and you're like, yeah, I'm ready. Yeah, no, you're not.
Yeah.
Well, or at least like I wasn't, you know. Yeah, and then the next, let's say, where are we? 13 years, 14 years kind of become this learning process of like, okay, well, how do I relate in this industry? What do I how do I gear my headshots towards being castable? Like, what does that mean for me personally? You know, like all that stuff.
How do you how did you figure out your casting? Like, what did that feel like? Do you feel aligned with how you're being cast now, or yeah, tell me a little bit about that journey.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. I think that still changes. That probably will change over time as well. I think I'm getting a better grasp at it as I go. I did a couple of exercises, like ask a bunch of people who don't really know you. What's the first impression they get of you as you enter a room or as you stand there by yourself on the street, you know? Yeah. And then you basically get data on that, and you compare that with, what do my friends say? How do I feel within? And eventually you arrive at, hopefully, at something that you can translate to pictures. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool that you did that. It kind of helped, you know, you kind of figure out, you know, it's funny. I have mixed feelings about that exercise you're talking about when you ask people that, if people don't know you, because sometimes there's places where they'll do that. They'll have you sit in a chair in front of everyone, and they're like, you know, well, who do you think this person is? And people shout stuff out. And like, sometimes it drives me crazy because they're like, oh, that's the jerk. That's the nice guy. That's it. And it's maybe it could be based on what you're wearing, you know, like your outfit just for that day, you know, you're sporty. It's like, well, I'm wearing shorts. So yeah, I guess, you know, but I do think it also is important because with certain roles, with certain things, when there's not a, you know, time to like change your look and appearance, or if it's something that's shorter, who you are and what you are has to read very quickly. Right. And so that does come across, and it, you know, you don't have the time to put on 60 pounds or whatever that thing is, you know, of muscle for a Marvel movie. And so you do want to know a bit of what your essence is, because those are the roles that, you know, if you're going to walk in and book like a TV show next week, those are the things you need to kind of have right there. And your materials and stuff need to be aligned with that. So, you know, I think there's a lot of use out of figuring out what that is for yourself and how you want to do it, you know. You know, when I talk to actors, I'm always like, well, what do you want to, you know, what do you want to do? What do you want to play? What do you think their answer always is when I say that? What do you want to play? Corbin, why are you laughing?
Oh, because I know the answer.
What do they say? What do they say?
Anything.
They say anything and everything.
Right.
Anything and everything.
Yeah.
And I think like that's wonderful. But when you're kind of still figuring out who you are, that's the stuff that's kind of like your goal that's closer to you. You know what I mean? And so it's great that you went on that journey to, you know, kind of find, you know, that stuff.
It's also funny because like I've gone through that journey too. I'm like, I'll play anything. And then like that one weird script comes across your table and you're like, I'm not gonna do that. That's not for me. Nope. I don't feel like doing that weird thing.
What, when you were in New York Neighborhood Playhouse, do you feel like, you know, there's obviously the kind of the craft side and then the business side. What were some of the big takeaways from the craft side that you really, you know, enjoyed when you were, you know, deep diving? Like, was it, you know, doing research? Was it getting into characters? Was it the relationships? What were some things that when you were deep diving into craft that you discovered?
One thing my main acting teacher there was really big about was energy. And really taking the energy from whatever is in front of you and then also giving it back, not letting it drop, and keeping that exchange going, basically, while not forcing it, right there. Like, obviously you can go to forcing it and being like, yes, I have energy, I give you my energy. But really, like, taking the energy, like listening in, feeling in, and then adding character and story into it, because that's gonna filter everything, right? Staying on that train of, yeah, but this is important to me, and this is why I'm giving you this energy back. Basically, that's like really one. If I had to pinpoint one thing, that would be that.
It's interesting you say that, because I've always enjoyed that with whenever you've coached me on some sort of job. First of all, I booked every job that you helped coach me with, so thank you. So,
really?
Look at that!
Really?
Look at that record. 100%.
100%.
Wow, that's wow.
So
that's also so nice of you to say. But yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate it. And like, but what's interesting about what you're saying too is I can feel that with your coaching. Like I was curious where, and maybe there's somebody in from your family or something too, but like, you feel like you listen and you feel like you change what is needed for you to be to help that person out. And I was wondering where's that come from? Like, it seems like you pay attention to not over coaching and not like doing too much, but kind of giving them exactly what they need in that moment to. It feels like you're giving energy and receiving energy, and I'm wondering where that comes from.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I think it's really being there with whoever is in front of you, and seeing, feeling, taking in what they give you. And then sure, script analysis, general acting stuff, coming into that as well. But it's I guess there's empathy in there. That's really important. It's also, to me, it's so interesting because it's so much easier for me to see in a script what's needed when I'm like sitting across from you, and I'm seeing what you're doing with it, rather than being like, okay, so I got the script, I got this audition, it needs to be in tomorrow at 6 p.m. I got to play this guy who does all this stuff. I got to memorize a line, and all of that is like so easy to get into your way as an actor, right? Like, there's all like these, okay, I got to figure out the technology, I got to get a reader lined up, blah, 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 blah. Oh my God, I already have so many ideas when I'm looking at the script, and oh yeah, this is what they need though, so I'm going to give them that. I don't have that when I coach, none of that. It's just, oh yeah, I just see what you're doing with the material, basically. And then, just being for me, then just really being available and being in the moment.
I think it's like, when you're you're wearing an outfit you're unsure of, and you go to someone else like, what do you think of this outfit? And they're like, it's great, or no. But then when they're wearing it, they're coming like, what do you think of this outfit? You have an opinion on, like, sometimes you're right, Stefan. It's like easier in a sense when it's someone else, you see, okay, this is what's happening. Now I have thoughts on this. With if you were at a neighborhood playhouse, then you were studying Meisner, right? You're studying Meisner. Yeah. Right. So when I first moved out here, some of my first training was at Playhouse West. So I love hearing that. And for people that don't know, there's a lot more to it, but the beginning of Meisner is repetition, where, you're really taking in that other person, you're really listening. And one of the things, Corbin, with your question that I'm even noticing now is a lot of people, this is acting, this is life. When someone else is talking, they start loading up what they're going to say. They start already going off on a little tangent and thinking about something. And it can be natural to do that. But the thing is, that's one of the things I think about Meisner when you're talking about being present and like a good listener as an actor or as a person. You're still there with that person, right? You're not exactly running so far ahead that you're not processing what they're saying or how they're saying it. I think, that was one of the big things I took from Meisner that I just loved,
Yeah, there's no planning when you do that too. Like you just kind of just
You can't plan.
Yeah, you can't plan, and it's reaction. Like there's just those are the best moments in any film that I've ever seen. Is just these raw moments rather than just like, oh, I'm gonna make a frowny face or whatever. Like that's a completely different attitude to life that nobody actually has. I think that's so important to keep in mind when we're acting too.
Yeah.
I think it also comes down to trust. Trusting that you can stay in that moment and don't have to load up with everything you're gonna say. Because like if I load up, then I'm like, oh, I'm afraid I'm gonna lose this. That takes me out of the moment then, right?
Yeah. Well, how often in life do we know what's going to happen tomorrow? We don't, or where we're going to go emotionally.
Yeah.
We really don't know. We might know we have events, but we don't know our emotional roller coaster, where that's going to go. Now in a scene, because we've memorized it or worked on it, we know where it's going to go. We know at the end, there's a breakup. So I think that can lead to, or at the beginning of the scene, maybe you need to be charged, but it doesn't mean at the beginning of the scene, we're already fighting. The beginning of the scene might be wonderful love, happiness, and then it deteriorates. So I think there's something, interesting. Like you use that word trust, which I love, which is you got to trust that, you're open and available to where that journey, where that roller coaster takes you. And your partner's a big part of that. Your partner's a big part of that.
Yeah, I think John, you told me once, I think it was you. There's like some emotional scene, like let's say the breakup scene, like you're talking about, and I was ramping to get to that point, and you're like, that's not how it happens. Like you like you're normal, and then you're dumped. It's like then the bad thing happens, and it blew my mind because it was just so obvious that it was like you can kind of. I have no control of whatever my emotion is going to be. I could scream just suddenly right now if I wanted to. I won't. Yeah. But it's just like it's just one of those. It was just one of those moments where I was floored by acting and how like beautiful it can be to be able to represent yourself in the fullest way, because you're never going to be ramping to whatever you're trying to do.
If it's after 10 p.m. in my house, my wife and I could get in a fight in any moment because we're both so exhausted, but it's just, we're both tired and we wake up and we're like, what were we even, I don't know, something, something about, you not doing this or me not doing, but after 10 p.m. it just can happen. And you're like, I should just go to bed. You know what I mean? Now with a scene, that's exactly what can happen too, is there's things that we have, and I think that's I love that you said that, Corbin, because there's not always a ramping up. Sometimes it's just kind of like a volcano. You know what I mean? Stefan, when you got out to LA then, did you also stay like in classes? Were you focused on the business side? Were you focused on just finding a day job? How did you kind of manage that transition?
I got more focused on the business side. And I just did a bunch of different classes. Like that's over, I guess, a little bit with the exception of the last 2 years. But that was just Zoom though. No, I've basically tried to stay in classes the entire time. Just keep the motor going, keep learning, keep meeting people. Yeah. And yeah, I also took some classes, went to some groups that were more focused on the business side of things. Yeah. I don't know that there was a specific transition with coming to LA in terms of, okay, let me really figure out this business thing now differently, Yeah. No, I think that kind of just happened. As for the like side jobs and all of that, that has like kind of solidified over the last couple of years here in LA as well. Actually, no, you're right. You're right. You know me so well. What I did, now that I come to think about it, I did a yoga teacher training in 2014, and then pretty soon after that started teaching some yoga, which also led to interesting, kind of get to know yourself kind of angles in my life. So that was pretty good. I still do that.
Yep.
Among a couple other things. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's funny when people like, I just thinking one word of advice for people, if you're like moving to LA, obviously you want to try to save money. But the second thing is a lot of times people are like, I need a flexible job. I'm like, when you first get here, you probably don't. You probably don't when you first get here. Like work if you can. But then what you find is people that have been here a bit longer, they have those jobs that have flexibility, and they've kind of created their own path in a sense. And they've got, you know, these multiple things. So they have that flexibility, and they've got a bit of consistent income, because acting can be up or down, or, you know, writing or whatever you're doing. So I think that is an important thing to be aiming towards. Doesn't mean you need that right away, that flexibility, because you might not be, you know, still working on your craft. You might not be needing, you know, to be auditioning all the time, or going to callbacks yet. But I do think it is great to have an aim towards, okay, what is the type of job that I enjoy that can be like a side hustle that can still kind of feed this and be consistent. You know, I think it's great to find.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Something that doesn't totally wear you out, right? So that you still can stay creative and inspired in some way. Anything with people, where the people can kind of be themselves, is really good. One of the things that I really love about New York is there's a lot of people watching. LA doesn't have as much of that. So anything that can get you into contact with people and allow you to kind of see them is a really great, just from an acting perspective, is a really great side hustle.
Yeah, that's a great. Yeah, here we do car watching. We watch cars. not as interesting to me.
That's so true. Stefan, I kind of pivoting a little bit. I'm curious. What was your like favorite experience on set? Like, what was something that, because you feel like a leader and you feel like somebody who like tries to pay attention and all those things. What was your best experience, and like how do you try to replicate that whenever you're out there?
The best experiences on set have been where collaboration actually happens. Last job I did was really wonderful in that regard. That you know how after, like in the beginning of your career, you kind of do a lot of one-offs, right? You do like a hey, I had this one day on this show, right? And you come in the first day and it's excuse me, it's what do you do on your first day? Well, you get to know everybody, because usually everybody already knows everybody there. They've been working together for a while, and you're like, hey guys, I'm the newbie, so what do I do, right? And you're kind of occupied by that a lot of times. You're kind of in, okay, cool, yeah, let me figure this out. All right, got one day. Okay, gotta bring all my lines out, gotta stand in the right place, gotta do that thing with a coffee cup. Okay, cool. And that's a lot of pressure. And then on like, once you get to day 2, day 3, you kind of, hey, Charlie, good to see you again. You know, this is amazing. Yeah, no, we're doing this thing. Well, how was your evening like? Da-da-da-da. You establish personal connections. And then at some point, you go into this collaborative space. And that is really awesome. Yeah.
Is it collaborative?
That is really good, because you are like, hey, I'm one of you guys now. I'm like, okay, we're in this together. We're making something really cool here.
And are you?
And then whenever that happens, that's great.
Yeah, that's great. Are you collaborating like before you're on camera? Like, are you guys talking about it and just kind of like run the lines, or you go in front and you're just having fun while you're up there? Like, what does collaboration mean to you in this kind of world?
I think it's basically finding your voice and your shoes in a way, and on set. Like, as a character, like, shoes are really important, right? So when you find your shoes, it's I know where I stand, and I know how to walk now, and I know how to be in this space. Just a metaphor for that. Yeah. Did that answer that?
Yeah.
Kinda
that's
lost
great.
No,
my train of thought.
I think no, that was great. I think starting with that idea of collaboration, and Stefan, you make a great point. I was thinking about the first. I remember this happened to me on a commercial. I did like a Time Warner cable commercial, and I was the Time Warner guy. So I was on for multiple days, and I was used to being on stuff for one day. And that first day, you're right. You're just trying to not screw up. You're trying to be ready. You're trying to be prepared. And then I always, joke by day 3, I'm like off to the side, like smoking with the crew. You know what I mean? Like, who are those newbies? You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
I don't really smoke. Don't smoke. But the idea is you're right. You kind of get settled in and you start to feel more comfortable. And I love what you said, getting to that level of collaboration. And I always think about on projects, I want to hire people that are better than me at that job.
Mm.
So I want someone, I want to bring in an actor that like knows that role, as well or better than me, and can be like, hey, here's, and they want to collab, they want to bring ideas, and, or whatever role the person's playing. Like, otherwise, like, I just do it myself, So that idea of collaborators to me is like, well, yes, because they hired you, because you have talent, because you're bringing something. And hopefully they want what you're bringing, that energy and that skill set, and to me, I love it. And then also when you collaborate with people multiple times, you start to get to know that person, and then, then you can really work together. And then it's a little more of a shortcut, and there's a relationship there, so it's not one-offs, which can be a challenge, it can be, but I love that idea of collaboration, and people that are open to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And to answer a little bit more of what you said, Corbin, I think that once you have settled in, once you are like in your shoes, once you are comfortable, I think the collaboration then can take place wherever, like in front of the camera, rehearsing with costume and makeup, like anywhere basically. It's just how you show up then.
Yeah.
How you're able to show up. Yeah.
And I also think it can be a timing thing. And the reason I think of that is I remember I was doing a short that I wrote and was directing, and I lost my lead actress like 4 days before we were supposed to shoot. So I needed referrals. And so I met with 2 women to play the female lead that I lost. And one woman was very sweet. She was great. And then the other woman was like, our first meeting was giving me notes on the script, like right away. And I was like, whoa, this is a little and she had like some strong opinions, which I'm okay with, but I hadn't even gotten to know her or you know what I mean? In a sense. And so it was like, you also, and I hope people know, like being prepared, being ready, that will help open the door for people if they're open to it. But that was another thing, is the timing, I think. Like, I'm totally fine with that, but it was like, we had just met and already I was getting notes on my script, and I was like, this feels like a lot right now, and I think the timing of what you're talking about, you look for those opportunities, but that's where the person who comes on set day 1 and is trying to do everything, it can be a lot. It can be a lot. So figuring out the timing of what the energy is, like you said, Stefan, figuring out that energy, kind of, meeting that energy, matching that energy, if it's more of a chill set, finding what works for you, can definitely be a big part of that.
Do you find like costumes and stuff like kind of to get you into that place too? Because you're talking about being in the makeup chair and like kind of getting your costume going. Does that kind of ground you into what you're about to do?
It depends on the costume a little bit.
Yeah.
It can.
God, Stefan, I wish you just like ripped off your face right now. Another face underneath. He's like, I'm in costume
Jessica
now. I don't look like this.
I'm Quentin Tarantino. I heard what you said earlier.
I heard what you said. Corbin, you're fired. Great.
No, that really does depend on the costume a little bit. Sometimes costume can be a little distracting or confining, and sometimes it's like, now I've become who I was always supposed to be, Yeah.
Somewhat speaking of that, I always forget, because you're always very well dressed and you always look good, but you're covered in tattoos. So I always forget that's
correct. Yeah.
And whenever I was looking at your IMDb and stuff, like how does that process work for you? Do they always like throw on a long sleeve shirt for you in some TV shows? Do they like cover it up, or
Corbin, us young people call them tats.
Tats,
okay.
Yeah. Tell me about your tats.
The young people, we call them tats. Whatever you want to call them.
Oh, your cool tats.
So what happens a lot is that I'm gonna just show you that sometimes when you wear long sleeve stuff, then this part might slip up in a scene, right? You're holding a gun, hey, bad guy, boom. So they tend to cover just this part here, so that if the sleeves come up a little bit, they're covered. Basically, like what makeup does then is they're covering themselves for the event that your sleeves might slip up. Yeah, so that they don't like, you're in front of camera and like time is very important, that the director then doesn't say like, hey, what is that? I can't see that. I can't have that on camera. So everybody go and break 20 minutes, cover him up, you know?
Yeah, head to toe.
Yeah. So that's something that happens. That's something that happens very often. Yeah. Yeah.
And does that take a while to like cover that up, that section, or not really?
Well, it's like 20 minutes probably.
That's not too bad.
Yeah.
So was there a little bit somewhat off topic, but like, how much meaning, like, is it behind, or like, what is there anything that like, walk me through the journey of like your first tattoo? Like, was it just love at first sight and you just covered yourself? Like, what happened?
It's definitely like somewhat addictive, because the process is kind of part of it. So like the act of getting tattooed is something that makes you feel yourself through the pain, through that, oh, there's someone sticking this needle in me, there's color coming in, it's a little bit of blood. It's a very intense process, and like, you're changing, this person is working with you. And I think that whole thing can like, apart from like, oh yeah, how now I look like this, become pretty addictive actually. And that happened to me for quite a bit, and then I realized, this is making it really hard on the makeup people.
Yeah. This is making my life a little longer.
Which is okay. But at the same time, I think I had something in me had to do it when I was younger and got all the tattoos. There's a funny story from the Playhouse. So the neighborhood Playhouse is like this very, very old traditional place, right? It's like this 3-story building in New York City, in Manhattan, 54th Street. And I walk in there the first day, and there's this like 140-year-old lady sitting at the front desk, and she's like, "How are you, my dear?" You kind of walk back into time, into like, oh, Sandy Meisner sitting like founding this place, or like getting his first class up, or it makes you feel like, okay, I'm in the 40s in New York. This is amazing, right? So this lady then, on the second day, I think she was like, "Oh, hello, my dear. It's obviously New York in June. Sleeves are rolled up. You must have been a very, very angry young man." And I looked at her and was like,
"Yeah,
damn, right.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe that was actually the moment where I was like, this is a good place for me."
They see right through me.
Yeah.
When you were saying that, it's interesting. It goes back to how visual our life is, and our world is, and our field is. I remember, Stefan, I was doing a play, and my sister came to watch. My sister's a doctor. She came out to LA. This was a scene in class, actually. And I had put these fake tattoos on my arm. It actually looked pretty real for this scene, and I was wearing like a tank top, so you could see the tattoos. So my sister's in the audience. I'm doing this scene. I'm like acting my face off, Corbin. It's like going really well. I'm like it's like going really great. It's a great scene. It's intense. It ends. And I go up to my sister and I'm like, Janine, what did you think? And she's like, she looks angry. And she's like, when were you going to tell me? And I was like, what? She's like, when were you going to tell me? I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, what do you think of the scene? She's like, when were you going to tell me you got tattoos? And she was so angry at me. I was like, they're fake. And she's like, oh, okay. What'd you think of the scene? I don't know. I couldn't think about anything else but the tattoos. I was like, you missed everything else that was going on in there. And we're just stewing, because you thought, I don't know. So it was
my
like
best performance.
I was like, yeah, she was, but I think, that idea of, for her, it took her down, who my brother, I don't know. It took her to this place. So it's interesting when you say that, because I think it is, whether you've got your long sleeve or your short sleeves, I bet you people have a little bit different responses before they get to know you, they get to know you.
Sure.
We make these, quick assumptions, like, whether they're incorrect or not, I think that's part of it. I want to talk a bit about being a bilingual actor, how that works. And I'm just curious, I've worked with some actors, actually from Germany and stuff. I don't know if Corbin told you, ich spreche Deutsch. Ich habe in München studiert. So, a long time ago, I studied in Germany, and I still kind of keep it up. And my son is actually in a German class for school. And this morning, I swear to you both, he goes, ich liebe meine Mutti. So I love my mother, which is what he said. And it was like his first German sentence.
Bastard.
And I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, he didn't say dad. So I'm a little pissed.
Howdy, son, but you're fucking it up a little.
Yeah, exactly. What about dad? Daddy's right here. But no, it was a very sweet and tender moment. But I love that he's getting exposed to that at a young age. How did you approach that? I mean, your English is really good, obviously. Like, what advantages, challenges? I'm just curious, kind of to discuss that topic.
Yeah, it's a really great way into casting. I think into getting cast. It's just something that set me apart. Or sets me apart from a lot of people is, I mean, if there's the man in the high castle and we need to cast it, right? Like, who do we call? Mm-hmm. And for the better or worse, German history is very interesting to American audiences. So that is definitely an advantage that I have with that, or that comes with speaking another language. There is a part though that I always, if it's English script, if it's English sides, I have to work slightly harder, I think, because when we're very young, we build a lot of connections to words, right? And when I hear, for example, the German word Hund, dog, right? Mm-hmm. There's like images of 3 dogs from my past growing up come up, right? So the word Hund is already filled with a lot of emotion. It's already filled with a lot of context. With the word dog, it's dog, D-O-G. It's
kind of there.
I have to bring more meaning to it. I have to work. I don't want to say necessarily harder, but I have to work a little different on it. Yeah, yeah. That's something that happens with that. Yeah, for sure.
Do you, I'm just curious, and we can go as deep or not. I think there's something kind of interesting with obviously, like you said, the history of Germany and with roles played in film, but there's actors like, like Christoph Waltz or Daniel Bruhl that are playing roles that are outside of, some of the stereotypes in a sense or whatever, or not that, but like, I think the roles feel like they're kind of opening up a bit and expanding. Do you feel that way too? You know, which is like with more like a bit like international type feels to cast and things like that. Do you feel that or no? I'm just curious your thoughts on that.
I haven't thought about it that way. I think, okay, one thing that is happening definitely right now is that there are more international projects, right? Is that what you mean?
I'm saying there's definitely international projects, but I also feel like, you know, like the cast, a lot of times, like it's an ensemble show where they're like, they have the French woman and, you know, and then they have the short guy and then they have the, you know, so they kind of, I mean, maybe the casts aren't as international, but I guess they're more diverse. So I feel like there's a little more of an openness in a sense to, I don't know if I'm saying like accents. I don't know. I guess I'm curious if you feel like it's shifted, just because I know other actors that feel like, you know, well, these are the kind of roles I've gone out for a long time, and I'm kind of sick of going out for this, even though I want to work. And so, and I hope it shifts, you know, or it is shifting, or it isn't shifting. That I just was curious your thoughts on that.
My experience is a little bit more that as I slowly, I don't want to even say get away, but as I slowly get seen for bigger roles like guest stars and series regulars, that's where the complexity comes in, right? Like you'll always have the that for the German military officer number one, right? You'll always have that kind of role, but I think that moves more along the lines of like, how important is this character for the storyline of the episode or for the movie? I experience that more that way.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I don't know. That's interesting. I know that there are more projects that cast across the ocean basically happen now, but I don't really know how that impacts like my experience with that. Not really so far. Yeah.
Do you find yourself having to like, because I've seen there's a lot of you have a lot of credits for like the guy who holds a gun or like things like that. Do you do like weapon training because of this kind of what we're talking about? Like, do you do things that you try to get better at that skill that is, you know, man in the high castle kind of guy?
The special skills section of our resumes.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that what you're talking about?
Exactly. Yeah.
So I don't have I was actually thinking about that this week, like of doing a weapons some kind of a weapons certification. And what I did instead was got a motorcycle license
Nice.
thing because of the tats, you know.
Yeah.
So that the thinking is there. I haven't drawn that exact conclusion that I need that right now. I think is what it is. Yeah.
Well, I think with this whole world, or what we're talking about, it's use the things you might play or you could play to your advantage.
Yeah.
So if you have like the fluency in German, that's an advantage you have to get in front of casting directors, and hopefully that gives you an opportunity to show them what you can do to impress them. And then when bigger roles come around, they remember you and they know you built a relationship. You know, with a motorcycle, whether I know the show's not on anymore, but like Sons of Anarchy, if you're going to play a role where you need to ride a motorcycle, that's an advantage if you've got that license. You know, if you're a precision driver, or you know, a buddy of mine is a stunt guy, that's given him some opportunities where they need a stunt person who can also do some acting. And I think it's such a competitive world we're in. You got to take advantage of, you know, your special skills or what differentiates you. You know, if you're really funny, great. Then, and so I think with what you're saying and what you're thinking about with those things is like, being, you know, an expert in firearms or firearm safety, or how to do that, or with a motorcycle, you know, knowing that stuff can help give you an advantage and get you in a room that you might not be able to get into if you didn't have that. You know?
Yeah.
So I think that's great. Let me ask you a serious question. Do Germans have a sense of humor?
No.
Wow. He was ready for that. Just stone face. Just stone face.
Yeah.
we go into the basement to laugh.
We hide it.
Yeah.
It comes up later. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But it's different. It's really, I mean, that one is really, really different, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you probably know this from Munich a little bit too. Let me ask you actually, how
Yes.
how did you experience that?
Well, one, I think humor and comedy to me feels like kind of like area specific. It's sometimes harder for it to travel. You know, I think there's like, you know, there's a reason there's like comedians in Germany that do well that maybe don't do well in the States, and some, I think, you know, English speaking comedians do well all over, but I still feel like it's a very like area specific comedy. So I think that's kind of interesting. Like British humor, you know, is its own kind of brand in a sense, in certain ways. So I think there's that. I also, when I was over there, I was at an international dormitory. So I hung out with a lot of some Germans, but it was a lot of kind of international, and a lot of times our common language was English. So we were in English a lot. So I didn't really get a great feel, but I do feel like, you know, I mean, and I think sometimes what I felt was like one of my really good buddies who still lives over there, Martin Schäferkotte, he's one of those guys that it is kind of a little bit of a drier sense of humor. He's got a great sense of humor, but it's a little bit drier. And you also, it doesn't get revealed until we got really close and took a road trip together. So before that, I didn't really see it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I think that's, I do think that's a bit of a difference, where here it's like, hey, how we doing? Great. We're best friends. And then we don't see him again. And there it's like, I mean, this is what I felt, at least, was like, okay, I don't know you yet. You know, we'll kind of keep it formal. And then once you get past that point, then it's like, boom, now we're bonded. And now the sense of humor starts to come out. It's kind of more what I felt. I mean, I don't know what's
yeah. And now we're brothers, basically, right?
Now we're brothers, exactly.
Like that's yeah. I think I would share that. It takes a little longer for people in Germany to like let each other in. But when you do, it's like, yeah, we're bonded now, you know? Yeah, for sure.
It's funny that you mentioned that. My grandpa, he grew up in Germany, and one time in high school, like my buddy, he needed to get a ride I was living in Ventura and driving to Ojai. It's like an hour and a half drive. And apparently my buddy said, like, they said 2 sentences to each other the entire way. But my grandpa always asked about him. He's like, how's Evan doing? He's like, I love that guy. And it's like it was like this weird thing where I was like, I don't understand. You like, and they both just bonded over this silent trip. And they're like, this is a beautiful countryside. I was like, wow, this is the most German thing I've ever heard.
It is interesting. It is. So I think there is some, you know, it's interesting the way that works. You know, and I think people have different experiences, and it depends on who you meet. But I do remember also my son's first day at school. There's a German class. This is true. A German class, French class, Spanish class, and an Italian class. So he's in the German class. And I remember the Spanish teacher, this is the very first day, they're all lined up. And the Spanish teacher's like going like, you know, in Spanish, you know, uno, dos. And she's kind of like singing and dancing. I could just see it 'cause it's far away. And the German teacher's like, eins, zwei. And it was like very like, so there's a little more of a form. And Quill, my son, loves his teacher, but I think there is a little more of a formality until there's like a loosening up of it than other places. And of course, it's not true with everybody, but I did kind of, you know, you kind of find certain things maybe, you know, in the culture. I want to just jump back to one other thing, which is, Stefan, if you were giving advice to someone who's new to acting, either to LA or New York, you know, what would you tell them? Like, if you could tell a younger you, or, you know, what's some advice, or, you know, something they could do every day, what's some practical thought?
I like the idea of doing something creative every day. I also like to keep kind of the longevity picture in there as well. Like, okay, so I can spend time doing something creative each day, but then how does that relate to me growing and putting concise action in, like, every day? to a week. So what do I do in this week? What do I do in this month? Maybe in this year, right?
Mm-hmm.
To have like also that perspective in there, I think is important. I like Julia Cameron's
The
the artist way. And she has this thing of take yourself out on an artist date, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that can mean so much as, okay, I'm gonna put my phone away for 2 hours and just watch this movie and just watch it and free of distraction, for example. I think that is something important. How do we fill ourselves? How do we fill our brains? I mean, I meditate in the morning, usually around 20 minutes. That's like a little bit of a morning routine that I have, just to not make sure, but just to be a little bit more conscious of what I'm putting into my system, into my head.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of what can you do, cultivate curiosity is something that's really important, I think, to really be not to be fascinated. That sounds like a result, but to allow yourself to get fascinated and enthused by what is out there, you know. Listen,
Mm-hmm.
you know, if it's the birds chirping out there that have an interesting song that day. Allow yourself to get bored.
Yeah, we don't do that really anymore. People don't. It's hard to do that.
Right.
I think it's great.
Right.
Great. Interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
But for an artist, I think that is when interesting things come up, or can come up, right? Where you're in that space of like, what do I do now? And then you start to fill that space, or start to grab from the outside of, oh, what do I do with that, right? Like that, when we're like constantly under the gun of, I have to produce, I have to be effective, I have to meet this deadline, I have to get this done by this time. It's really, really hard to be creative. It's really, really hard to find that artistic space, if not impossible.
Yeah, pushing yourself harder doesn't always open yourself up to more creativity.
Yeah,
you know, I mean, sometimes you have to push yourself, but I think that's a great point. Yeah, and a lot of times we fill that boredom with a screen or external, you know, and what you're talking about, I think, is internal. Seeing what happens when you try to fill that or allow that boredom internally. What does it go? Where does it go?
We're so used to being effective and being like in the doing, that it's almost becoming a scary place of, what, I'm bored, shit, you know. That's my curse.
You only get one. No, you get as many as you
Good. Really?
Here we go.
I'm so excited. Yeah, I think there's, it's fine. It's you said the word listening, and you meant like, you know, listening to like the outside and the birds and people and whatever. But like, I feel like listening to yourself too, like whatever you're feeling in that moment. I remember I booked a play once because I was just
Jesus. Corbin just said something insightful for the first time. What episode are we in, Corbin? 22?
Wait, what did I say? I blacked out for a second.
Thank God. Thank God.
Yeah, that was scary for a second there. But yeah, I booked this play because like I was bored, and usually my go-to is like Reddit or something, you know, just like going on my phone and doing all the things that we all do. And I was just like, I'm just gonna do this monologue. This sounds fun, and I just like sent it in, and I just kind of it felt right in that moment, you know. And I think it's just letting whatever recharge your battery. And I don't, like you're saying, don't do that every time. You also need to relax and refill the tank. But yeah, I think it's just like, you got to listen to yourself. Like you're the only person who knows what you need. Like don't try to fill that with whatever crazy outside source.
Yeah, or noise, just noise. Sometimes we have so much noise, you know what I mean? And we're just on repeat, you know. It's just like go to bed, wake up, all the noise, and you know, I mean, really. And it's just like, you know, it's on repeat, and it can be nice to step away. That's great. I think those are all really great advice things. Well, we have one final segment that we call your best
bad acting.
Okay.
Oh God.
Oh God. Here we go. Who's prepared for this?
Now the pressure.
Now the pressure
mounts.
really mounts.
This is it.
But not really, because there's no stakes, but there's stakes. There's stakes, but no stakes. Corbin's gonna send it to you in the chat. This is a fun one. This is from a movie
Dazed and Confused,
called Dazed and Confused. I don't know if you've seen it, but Matthew McConaughey plays kind of like a stoner type character, but you can do it however you want.
Okay.
Do you recognize it? Is this brand new?
No,
it's kind of exciting. Oh, good. Oh, good.
It's brand new.
This is good. This is good. This is even better. Even better. So with this, have fun with it. If you want to, whatever you want to do with it, we might give you a redirect, but just have some fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you got to do what Randall Pink Floyd wants to do, man. Let me tell you this. The older you do get, the more rules they're going to try to get you to follow. You just got to keep living, man. Livin.
Oh, that was good. I didn't even know we were getting into it.
I know, it started going. It felt so natural. That was amazing.
That was great.
That was not bad enough?
No, that was beautiful.
No, it was good.
Don't worry, my redirect will make it bad.
Oh, good.
Go for it, Corbin. What's your redirect?
So you made the mistake of doing an old lady accent earlier. I want to hear this old lady accent.
Okay.
Love it.
You gotta do what Randall Pink Floyd wants to do, man. Let me tell you this. The older you do get, the more rules they're going to try to get you to follow. You just gotta keep living, man. Livin.
I'm crying.
So good. I was so waiting for her to say angry living. That's good. Wonderful.
No, that's really cool. I did not allow myself to improvise more with the scripture.
You didn't have to. I had a lot of time to think about it while you were acting. You were acting really well, and I had time to think about it. But no, you crushed it. That was great. I have no redirect because I love the old lady. I can picture that woman. She's still there. She's still, I'm sure, at Neighborhood Playhouse. She's like 160 now. She's still doing it. I love it. Stefan, this has just been wonderful. It's been so great talking to you. I didn't know you before this, but I can tell you really think about things. You care. You do listen. I love that theme for you. I can see that, and I think those are all wonderful attributes to have as an actor and as an acting coach. So, I really wish you all the success, and I'm so appreciative of your time coming here.
Great. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you guys. Wonderful to meet you, John, and good to reconnect with Corbin. It's I'm also like kind of humbled to be on this. It's great. Yeah.
Well,
awesome.
you did great. This was a fabulous episode. So thank you so much for spending some time with us. And we hope to see and hear from you soon. All right.
Sounds great.
All right.
Cool.
Bye.
Thank you, guys.
Tschüss.
Ciao, ciao.
Guten Tag, ich heiße John Ruby. Ich komme aus USA. Ich habe in München studiert und ich liebe Käse. Corbin, you know what I just said?
Yeah.
What? What'd I just say? I said, good day. My name is John Ruby. I'm from the USA. I studied in Munich and I love cheese.
Ooh.
Yeah. That's Käse, baby.
That's Käse. Who, first of all, Käse is the best.
What? Such good.
This is the best thing ever. Yes. But no, we need people to like and subscribe to our channel. They can't just talk about cheese all the time, John.
Sorry, I'm talking about cheese. A lot of cheese, buddy. That's what I'm talking about.
So good.
What do you want them to like and subscribe to?
Well, we're on YouTube, so give us a like, give us a subscribe, give us a follow. We're on Instagram, so make sure that you're getting all those great blurbs that we send out every week. And then also we are on every listening platform, so Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We're just give it a listen, give us a rating, give us those.
Is there an option there for them to like my German?
No,
like them to say,
God, no.
Great German, John. Just great German.
If I say it, will that appease you?
No, that's not validation. No.
No. Well,
all right. Thanks, everybody. Like and subscribe. Talk to you soon. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to the
Movie Spotlight Podcast.